In a recent segment about abortion on MSNBC, panelists accused the pro-life movement of trying to oppress African-American women by treating them as, quote, incubators, and derided the white female attorney general of Mississippi, who's just filed a brief with the Supreme Court in support of her state's ban on abortions after 15 weeks.
We also know that women of color and low-income women get abortions at higher rates than white women and more affluent women. This really shows that, the attorney general ultimately is, a wealthy white woman who is acting in the interest of conservatives and other wealthy white women.
Let's get some reaction from Concerned Women for America CEO Penny Nance. Penny, welcome back to the show. You are a well-known pro-life advocate, and when I heard this and saw this segment, I thought about you. It's difficult now because a lot of very heated conversations and discussions and issues that we have end up invoking the issue or the imagery of racism. So how do you respond to those claims?
Well, there's so much to say. That segment was noxious and hateful, and the hatefulness was only surpassed by just the ignorance around it. Anyone that has any dealings with the pro-life movements knows that there's deep unity, and there's women of color that have led in that movement, and it is such just a backhand to the African-American women who have led the movement. Women like Dr. Mildred Jefferson, who was the first African-American woman to graduate from Harvard Medical School, the first African-American woman to be admitted to the Boston Surgical Society. Her work is so important that her papers are held at Harvard to be studied. And she was the leader of the pro-life movement and the president of the National Right to Life Commission. Women like Kay Coles James and Dr. Elvita King, our sisters that are link arms with us in this movement. It's so disrespectful to them.
Well, I want to read something because there's this debate going on now about the Hyde Amendment as well and government funding. And polling shows even if people consider themselves pro-life or pro-choice, the majority of Americans still oppose the use of taxpayer funding for someone else's abortion, even if they support the right to abortion and access to abortion. Axios writing about this says House Democrats advance spending bill without the Hyde Amendment. The big picture, the amendment disproportionately impacts low-income women and many women of color who receive health care coverage through government-sponsored plans like Medicaid. So they say, listen, it's unfair to say that that funding stream cannot flow because it is hurting women of color and people of color and different minority groups. So if you oppose the Hyde Amendment, that's what that's about.
Well, and it's suggesting somehow that the answer to poverty or the answer to hurt is to take the life of another human being. The pro-life movement links arms and cares for the least of these, not just a baby in the womb, but walks alongside these women for many years after, even sometimes taking them into our homes. The true racism in this question, there are racists in this conversation, but we need to look at Planned Parenthood, at the founder, Margaret Sanger, who was a leader in the eugenicist movement, who called minorities human weeds, who worked to usher in forced sterilization. 60,000 Americans, many of whom were minorities, were forced sterilized under her leadership. So, and by the way, that hasn't changed. We still see the majority, almost 80% of Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in minority communities. Yeah, yes, it's a very real problem when only 13% of the population is having over almost 40% of the abortions. There's something very wrong. Pro-life women want to love them and care for them. The other side wants to exterminate them.
Well, it is a very difficult conversation, and we hope the two sides could meet in the middle to talk about those things about humanity. And as you said, not just about one side of it, but walking alongside these women who really find themselves in an unplanned situation. Penny, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.